This delineates the boundary that separates Finland and Russia, spanning a total distance of 340 kilometers. Numerous military facilities are scattered along this boundary line, the most significant one being a Russian military base, situated just 60 kilometers from the Finnish border. Intriguingly, this once deserted base is established on land that previously belonged to Finland. Reinstated in 2015, it is believed to house over 3,000 troops and a speculated intelligence division capable of monitoring military, naval, and air activities, among other operations. This base exemplifies Russia's progressive incursion into the Arctic region. This growth has been ongoing for years, but has only recently become a potential threat to Finland. Traditionally, the diplomatic dance between these two countries has been a well-thought-out mix of diplomacy, concessions, and occasional strains to stave off undesirable outcomes. However, in light of recent happenings in Ukraine, Russia's approach towards the non-native countries of the Eastern Bloc is now a significant worry for Finland. After all, it didn't take Russia long to deploy ground forces along its border with Ukraine, leading up to a substantial invasion. Even if the Olkurdi base doesn't serve as a rally point for troops intending to traverse the 60 kilometers to Finland, it provides an advantageous starting point should the Kremlin choose to strike back at any Western nations using Finland as a focal point. I know it sounds completely unbelievable. However, if Putin's incursion into Ukraine has revealed anything, it is his readiness to go to great lengths to actualize his vision of a robust Eastern Bloc free of Western influence. For a considerable period, the idea of Finland being a substantial part of that vision was dismissed. Yet, with each statement the Kremlin makes about NATO and Finland, the probability appears to be increasing. Notwithstanding its close relationship with NATO, Finland is not a member, hence does not enjoy the protective umbrella of collective defense. So why hasn't Russia attempted to invade Finland yet? The answer lies in how Finland has managed its relations with Moscow since the previous incursion. In 1939, as the Soviet Union was flexing its muscles, Joseph Stalin demanded that the Finnish border be pushed back 16 kilometers, creating a buffer against potential German attacks on Leningrad, currently St. Petersburg. He also sought control of numerous islands for naval bases. Finland refused, leading to the invasion by the Red Army comprising 500,000 soldiers. The present conflict between Russia and Ukraine bears striking similarities to this historical episode. Despite Finland having to cede 11% of its land, it maintained its independence and confronted the Russians again during World War II. Since then, the two countries have maintained a steady relationship. Finland has striven to avoid confrontation, instead choosing alternative strategies to align with the West while keeping the Kremlin placated. For example, when the 1947 Paris peace treaties prohibited them from joining the EU NATO and the European Free Trade Association, they found other ways. The organization, similar to the EU, was designed for nations that were not part of the EU or any other Western-aligned entities that Moscow perceived as favorable to the West. So how did Finland navigate this bureaucratic maze? They created FEINAFT, the Finland European Free Trade Association. They also established a pseudo-version of COMECON, or the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, an economic group for Soviet states orchestrated by Stalin. Although this pseudo-organization was never operational, Finland used it to foster ties with the European Free Trade Association and strengthen bonds with Western nations such as Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, and the United Kingdom. Finland also entered into a neutrality agreement with the Soviet Union, ensuring their safety and low-profile status throughout the Cold War era. Notably, Finland declined assistance from the Marshall Plan, an American project designed to reconstruct Europe and bolster democracy in the region. By the 1990s, Finland gained full autonomy and became a member of the European Union in 1995, during a time when Russia was too debilitated from the collapse of the Soviet Union to resist effectively. This affiliation not only significantly enhanced the Finnish economy and cultivated trade and strategic alliances, but it also provided Finland with a clandestine, yet not entirely secret, weapon, which I will address shortly. However, contemporary interactions between the two countries typically involve presidential visits, ice hockey games, and discussions on world-altering matters. Primarily because of their understanding to remain outside of NATO, Finland has consistently dismissed any speculation about joining NATO in the past, with the destabilization of their peaceful ties with Russia being a valid reason. At least, that used to be the case. Finland has publicly denounced the needless conflict with Ukraine and discussed their strategy to deal with Europe's shifting dynamics. President Sauli Niinisto has been quite candid about his perspective on NATO membership, especially given the political turmoil earlier this year, prior to the invasion. He affirmed that Finland's scope for action and freedom to choose also encompass the option of military alignment and the application for NATO membership, should we decide so. Following Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the president's viewpoint scarcely altered. He even delegated the decision to Finnish leaders and citizens, asserting the decision rests with Finland. So what's the Finnish public opinion on this matter? Well, it varies depending on when you ask. Following Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, only 18 to 21% of the Finnish population believed that joining NATO was necessary for protection. The situation was relatively calm. Jump to January 2022, when Russian forces encircled their shared borders with Ukraine. Finnish support for NATO membership rose to 28%. Move forward again to March 2022, nearly 53% of the nation thought that joining NATO was the right move. Evidently, there's a rising trend towards joining NATO driven by fear. And upon reflection, this choice might be logical. Finland already bears semblances to a NATO member without officially being part of it. Finland already participates in military drills with NATO and allows NATO forces to operate within their territory. They frequently exchange military intelligence with this alliance, and Finnish leaders often underscore their affiliation with the West. Finland is involved in NATO's Partnership for Peace program, fostering diplomatic relationships with both NATO and non-NATO Euro-Atlantic nations. Finland, alongside Ukraine and 4 other nations, also enjoys an enhanced opportunity partnership with NATO, meaning they can contribute to NATO's security operations based on their abilities. In 2015, Finland even deployed troops to Afghanistan as part of NATO's Operation Resolute Support. Therefore, it's fair to say Finland already has a substantial presence in NATO affairs. However, they're officially non-members, and this nuance becomes clear when considering Kremlin's stance and Finland's meticulous diplomacy over the years. A statement from Russian Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Zakharova illustrates this. Obviously, Finland and Sweden's inclusion in NATO, primarily a military organization, would prompt significant military political repercussions, necessitating Russia's reciprocal actions. To emphasize this point, we need to revisit 2016, 2 years post-Crimea's annexation, when Putin visited Finland. In the aftermath of the Crimea incident, Finland naturally ramped up its military cooperation with NATO. Putin responded to this by rhetorically asking what Russia would do under such circumstances, highlighting that they had pulled back their forces by 15 kilometers. He also acknowledged that Finland's security and independence were its own responsibility. However, Finland remains composed, viewing threats of retaliation as mere rhetoric, given the Kremlin's history of not always following through on such warnings. Despite this delicate diplomacy, Finland is far from defenseless. As an active EU member, they have a secret weapon, the EU's Mutual Defence Clause. This provision could potentially deter Kremlin from invading Finland as it did Ukraine. It mandates aid and assistance from member states in case of armed aggression or terrorist attacks, as per the UN Charter. While not as concrete as NATO's collective defense, it signifies that Finland would be a formidable opponent. Consequently, Finland is carefully examining all its options, prioritizing the maintenance of peace while steering clear of a Russian invasion. And that concludes this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.